Hello and welcome to Out Here with Kids. I'm Nancy Weaver, your host, and this is where we talk about the messy, clumsy, I hope nobody's watching moments that happen when you're raising kids. Every week we talk about those struggles and what happens when they spill over into public spaces, and importantly, what people in the community can do to lend support. So if you have ever struggled to keep it together in aisle 7, this podcast is for you. Today, I want to talk about a universal truth of parenting and what that means as we continue to evolve our relationship with our kids and our relationship to ourselves, our communities, our families. And here's the truth. Children will always be raised by imperfect parents. There's no way around it. And you can try as hard as you might to be a perfect parent. For me, when my kids were little, here's what that looked like. I read all the books. My stack of parenting books is like really tall. I'm a public health professor, so I read all of the research. I went to all of the parent-teacher meetings. I went to all of the, seminars people had on child development. I talked to the pediatricians. I went to the conferences. I did all the things with this goal that I was going to take my job of parenting so seriously that I was going to approximate at least the perfect parent. I was even going to figure out like which pathways in my children's brains I wanted to myelinate and what instruments or sports or hobbies, how would we spend our time together, when to introduce certain things of learning. Like I was a little manic about it actually, and I would not recommend this to anyone. So I'm not saying this is the way to go about it at all. Quite the opposite actually. The point being, we know so much about how to parent. There's so much information out there. You can go on any social media site. You can listen to any podcast, ironically, this one, and you're going to learn a lot about kids and parents and trauma and all the things. You'll never be a perfect parent. It's impossible. It's impossible. And here's why. Well, there's a lot of reasons why, but here's an important reflection. Parenting really is about modeling. The biggest way you can influence the development of your child is to model what it looks like to have a good life. Model what it looks like to have healthy relationships, what it looks like to manage stress, what it looks like to love your spouse, and everything else. Kids learn by watching. And if you're in your 20s or in your 30s, let me just tell you, there's a lot more that you're going to figure out, thankfully. And so in my 20s and 30s, did I model healthy resolution to my childhood trauma? Hell no, because you know what? I didn't even know in my 20s or my 30s what the heck kind of trauma I needed to resolve. It wasn't until I got much later I was like, oh no, I best be looking inside a little bit and figuring out how my early experiences in life affected me, much less how they were then affecting my kids. So I'm an imperfect parent. I'm an imperfect human, and I will never be exactly the kind of parent that my children need. I won't be the kind of spouse my husband needs. I won't be the kind of daughter my parents need. The beauty of that then is to accept that you can be who you authentically are, and that's going to be enough. That's going to be exactly who the people in your life need you to be. So all the amount of like people pleasing and book reading and podcast listening, that might be useful. That might be helpful for you. But what's the most helpful is to learn how to be who you are and learn how to live your life in such a way that it models for your children what that means, what it means to live a good life. Okay, so if that's true, If we are imperfect parents raising imperfect children who will grow up to be their own version of imperfect parents, perhaps, what does that require of us then? And I love that this notion is really being more represented in the discourse about parenting. And that's this notion of repair. Because even now, like, my children are adults. And so thinking alongside of them about the things I did that were kind of harmful, damaging, dare I say, traumatizing. I mean, I would just call them bonehead parenting moves. I never acted with any malice. Like, I acted out of love. And also that, even in a loving way, didn't serve my children well. So I want to talk about this idea of repair. And I'll do that using a story from my childhood. It's a story my mom and I talk about a lot. And she's given me permission to share it. So here it goes like this. And it's Christmas time, so this is always something we think about around the holidays. So when I was a teenager, I think I was 13, but I could have been a little younger than that. My mother gave my sister and I flannel nightgowns for Christmas. Now, I would have loved this flannel nightgown. I'm kind of a soft, cozy person. I like blankets. I like flannel nightgowns. Like, the whole idea was a good idea. And my mother is like the very best gift giver in all of eternity. But my flannel nightgown it was pink. It had this little ruffle thing around the neck, and there were little white ducks on it. And it was long. And so I took a look at this nightgown and I was like, ugh, right? Okay, so remember, I'm like 13. So hold that in your mind for a minute. Then my sister opens her flannel nightgown, and it's like this really cool flannel nightgown. And my sister's younger than I am. And I held it in and held it in and held it in until we were at the dinner table later, and I just unloaded on my mother. And I was just ungrateful. And at the heart of the unloading was the fact that I didn't feel seen. You know, I was not a kid anymore. I was a teenager. I wanted cool teenager things. Why did my sister get a cool teenager thing? And I got ducks. I was so hurt, and I was so mad at her for not seeing this. And of course, my mom, who's like, as I said, this amazing gift giver, she's like, what in the world? Because she's thinking, I've done this great thing. My kid loves soft things. She loves yummy, snuggly things. Of course, she's going to like this nightgown. All right. All that to say, what is important at that moment is we sat at that dinner table. We sat at our table and we hashed it out, you know, and I was able to say in so many words, I don't like this. You should have known that. And it hurt my feelings that you thought I would like this nightgown. And she was able to say, you know, whatever it was that she said. And now we laugh about it. Now it's kind of funny, right? The trick is she noticed at that moment, like, uh-oh, this didn't go well. I was loving. I was well-intended. I put effort into thinking about what I thought Nancy would like, and she didn't. So she knew enough to repair that moment. She was smart about that. She was on point. And we circled back. We talked about it. We had a moment of repair. I think it actually did take a while. And now it's something that, you know, it's a moment of closeness for us. You know, we appreciate that incident. So she might have said, like, okay, I was an imperfect parent. I did something that didn't make you feel seen. I did something that hurt your feelings, that didn't really resonate with you. Now, here I am with kids of my own, and I'm like, oh my gosh, the expectation around gift giving, it almost paralyzes me. Because I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so many things they might like, they might not like. What if I do it wrong? What if they're upset with me? And the one thing that gives me so much comfort, if you will, is that, yeah, I might screw up. I might get them a gift that they don't want, that they don't like. They might roll their eyes. They might set it aside. They might even give it away. They might ask to return it. And because of my mom's example, I understand the importance of repairing in a simple situation of gift giving. And that's important for me because otherwise, are we just going to sit on the couch and stew about it? Are my kids going to feel bad that they want something different than what I gave them? Am I going to feel like there's a lot of shame and guilt, and we're all wrapped up in that? So if your kids turn to you, like I did with my mom, and basically tell you, I hate this present. Why did you get me this? You don't know me very well. Does that mean they're bratty or entitled or, going to grow up to be narcissist? No. Here's what that means. That means they're kids. They're growing. Their brain, you've heard this, their brain isn't developed. Their prefrontal cortex, which does a lot of this like thinking and executive functioning and rational, decision making, that's not developed yet. Their brainstem is overfiring. All they know is like, what the heck is this duck pajama thing? And their behaviors are motivated from the place in their brain that is sort of reactive. And they haven't learned yet to say, like, Mom, I really appreciate the effort that you went through to get me this gift. It's not really something that kind of that I'd like to have. But I really love that you got this for me. Maybe we could go back to the store and choose a different color together. I don't know. Maybe that's something an older, rational person would say with a fully functioning prefrontal cortex. I don't know. Or you might look at their Christmas list and go, oh my gosh, what is all this stuff that my kid wants? Like all this, designer this, designer that, something that like all the cool kids have. Your kid might be saying, I don't want anything if it's not this brand, this style, this color, this price point. They might have big demands on their Christmas list. And is that because they're entitled or bratty? No. These are gifts. These are things they would want to have. Because at this stage of their lives, middle school, high school, young adulthood, their need to belong is really great. Like that need of belonging, that sense of safety in a social circle because you have what everybody else has, like that's evolutionary, that's kind of saying I need to have these things to fit in because my social standing, my social positioning is so important to me at this stage of my development that I have to have the very right water bottle. Now, what if they don't get that? What if you got them a knockoff water bottle? What if they come to you and they say, I told you I wanted this water bottle and you got me that water bottle and weren't you paying attention? Okay, which is just what I did with the duck pajamas, right? This means that they don't yet have the vocabulary to say, Mom, I know it doesn't make sense that I really want that other water bottle, but I feel really worried that if I don't have the things that my social group has, they're going to kick me out of the group. And being kicked out of my social group right now is one of the biggest threats to my nervous system, to my perceived felt sense of safety that I can imagine right now. So it might not make sense to you, Mom, why the water bottle you got me isn't the right one and why that's important. But it's really important to me. Okay? Like they're not going to say that. They can't say that. They're teenagers, they're kids. So we coach them. We give them language. We help them tease out all of those competing tensions that they're feeling. I love this water bottle. It's not the right one. Oh my gosh. And it's just like when they were little kids and you cut their sandwich in the wrong way. Kids can become upset for a whole host of reasons that make no sense to you. Try as you might, you are not going to be able to meet all of their needs, to understand all of the ways in which they will feel safe and connected. You will not be able to model all of those healthy ways of resolving your own, aversive emotions. All of those things I, as a parent, we're still learning those things. We are imperfect humans, which means that we are also imperfect parents. And that's okay.